What's up everyone? Welcome to my channel. Today we are doing a bit of a challenge. If you're new here, my name's Elise. I'm so glad that you decided to stop in. And if you're not new, welcome back. It's always great to see you. Thanks for returning. Today, the challenge is reading books that I've been avoiding. I have been avoiding them. I am not gonna lie. Reading books and buying books are two separate hobbies in my opinion. They just luckily coincide with each other. So I have a lot of books, and there are a lot of books that I want to read, I just don't get to. I am a mood reader, but there are a few that I have actually been avoiding, and let me show you what those are. First things first. I was so excited to read this. I got this on release day. Then I was just waiting for the mood to strike. The curiosity to read this has struck. But here's where I went wrong. I saw that it's more of a melancholic book instead of a rom-com. And then it's just, I love so many other of Emily Henry's books that I'm really nervous that I won't love this one as much. So I've just been putting it off. It's time to finally give it a chance. The next book, Bear With Me Now by Katie Shepherd. I also bought this on release day. These two released on the same day. I saw some people posting about the ARC and I was like, that sounds fun. I love the cover. It has nature elements. So I grabbed it. Then someone I trust on Bookstagram went off on this book. And we have a lot of similar interests and tastes, and she just went off on this book and ripped it to shreds. And I've just slowly been watching the Goodreads rating like get lower and lower and lower, and now it's in like the low 3s, which I rate books 3 all the time and I still enjoy them. Like most of the time if I rate it a 3, I'm not mad that I read it. So even if I rate this a 3, it'll be okay. But since I saw that rant, I have absolutely been avoiding this book. The next book I've been avoiding, pretty much this whole series. I love retellings, but because this is by Disney, I know that it's going to have a lot more of the Disney story and elements than say Hooked or like Darling Girl, where they just have little elements of these stories. But this is like the story with a twist. I just, one, didn't want to read the same story again. 2, was am worried that they will completely change the story in a way that I hate it. So that's why I've been avoiding it, but it's finally time. It's time to try it and give it a chance. And I also have this on audiobook, so I will be diving into that soon. Last but not least, The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. Guys, I already started this book. I am on page 26. I remember what happens in the first 26 pages because it made me so mad. Our main female character, Catalina, works at a largely male-dominated industry, maybe for engineers or something like that. I remember her being in a meeting, and the way that they treat her and talk to her like she's not worth her degree, she's not worth their opinion because she's a woman. My blood was boiling. I remember trying to read this before bed, and I had to like, I think I just scrolled for like an hour after this because I was so mad and it took me that long for my, like, to calm down enough to go to sleep. So ever since that moment, I've been avoiding this book. Please tell me it's better. Like, please tell me it gets better. Not that the story's bad, the story's not bad, just that part that really pissed me off and upset me about how women were treated, which I know is part of the storyline, like I get it, but in that moment it just like, I couldn't, I was so mad. So please tell me, give me reasons to read these books down below so that I'll finish. Hey friends, what's up? Let's talk about this book. I'm actually already 25% of the way through it. I also have it on audiobook. When I listened to the first chapter, I was like, oh no, but then it kept going and I realized kind of where they were going with it, and I was like, okay. I got ahead of myself a little bit. I also really love the narrator. He does a great job with all of the voices. What I'm really enjoying is its dual timeline, actually. So we are getting to see Maurice's history and past and how he met Belle's mother, you know, how Belle came to be. And then there's the current timeline where Belle is experiencing kind of the usual thing that we already know. So I guess we're kind of seeing how those two timelines parallel. So I'm really enjoying Maurice's story so far. I'm really enjoying the narrator. I guess I'll come back to you guys in a little bit, see how I'm feeling about it. But so far, it's fine. It's better than I anticipated. I'm really enjoying that dual timeline from Maurice's perspective. I'm excited to see where that goes, but the current perspective is just like, okay, we'll see, because I feel like 25% isn't that far enough to really get a full idea of how it's gonna be. Hello, my friends. I finally finished this book. I actually had to give myself a little bit of time to cool off after finishing it because I was so mad. I probably should have filmed my reaction to it, but I had to think about how to explain my feelings without spoiling the book. This book is a twist on the Disney version of Beauty and the Beast. In this story, Belle's mom curses the Beast. And there's this phrase that is frequently spoken of in this story, and that is magic always comes back on itself, even in the smallest of ways. That's what happens in this story, not a spoiler. There were some things that were different that I appreciated. It was pretty much exactly what I feared. There were a lot of parts that were similar to the original stories, and in those moments I got a little bored. It was kind of a pacing thing for me. They were just a little too similar in those moments, but there were some things that they added that I really enjoyed, like there was a past timeline from Maurice's perspective and how he came to get to know Belle's mother. I really enjoyed that. There was kind of a mystery element added to the story, kind of a whodunit type thing. Again, I can't tell you because of spoilers. But I did appreciate that aspect. However, I thought it kind of dragged on a little too long. And at the end of this book, of all the things that this author chose to change, how they changed the ending, the very last part, made me so frustrated and angry. It was just like, out of all the things, why that one? Why that one? Yeah, I really don't know what else to say without spoiling this and literally explaining all of the major details of the story. Just know that the reason I put it off came to fruition, not for me. In fact, I do have a book set. I have the other two books previous to this. I think the one for Aladdin and maybe the one for Cinderella. I don't know if I want to read those now. So these might be donated to my library soon. Hello, my friends. I started Happy Place yesterday. I am 66% of the way through Happy Place, so about 250 pages. I have a few thoughts so far. At first, it took me a bit to get into, but my Libby hold is going to run out soon, so I was like, okay, I'll just push through. So I have to say the first 5 chapters, I was kind of like, I don't know if I'm feeling this. And it's not that it's bad, it's definitely great. It's great writing, but like the vibe was not necessarily what I'm going for. And so I definitely understand the people who explained and described this book as melancholic. It's true. It's like my heart feels so raw listening and reading this story. It's so... my heart just goes out to these characters, but at the same time I'm just like, guys, just like have a conversation. And I know vulnerability is scary, but sometimes you don't get anywhere without vulnerability, and sometimes without it things are more painful than just expressing yourself and sharing what you're thinking and feeling. So basically our two main characters, Win and Harriet, started dating several years ago and were engaged. But at the top of this book, at the beginning, we find out that this friend group is getting back together for the last time, and Wynn and Harriet want to pretend that they're still together so that they don't ruin this last time, this last trip with their friends. So there's a lot of resentment. There are a lot of things unsaid between them and between their friend group. So that has kind of reminded me of the like lack of communication trope, the miscommunication trope a little bit, but it's like the whole story is based on that instead of it just happening, you know, towards the 70% mark of the book or like the last third of the book. So that's how I'm used to it being, but this is like the basis of the story. So I don't know how I feel about that. There are a lot of instances where they could share instead of being cryptic, and they're just being cryptic. And I know it's for the sake of the story, I get it, but it's driving me a little bit nuts. However, I love how obsessed Harriet is with Wynn. It's the way that it's described does not make it seem weird or anything. It just makes it seem so sweet and wholesome, and I just wish she would open up to Wynn. And same for Wynn. I know something happened with him and he is not expressing that. She has kind of explained him as this stone or like granite facade, and that's definitely showing. A little thing that's bothering me like stylistically is this is in first person present. The story is told in first person present. But I would say 2/3 of the book so far have been flashbacks. Some chapters flashback to the past. But even those are written in present tense, and it's not my personal preference. Where do I have room to critique that? But for me, it really takes me out of the moment when I know we're in a flashback, but it's present tense, and I'm like, this makes no sense to me, but that's just my personal preference. It's still very beautifully written, but that's really been taking me out of the story in those moments. But those flashbacks are really sweet, and it's really layering the story. Again, it's very beautifully written. I feel like sort of my reasons for avoiding this book and putting it off have kind of been coming true, at least, you know, after reading the first 66%. There's still the opportunity for it to resolve itself. However, I don't feel super connected to these characters, and I think it's because of the way that the story is being told. Again, we still have some time left for redemption, but I definitely am anxious to continue it, and I just want to know why. I want to know why there is this giant miscommunication, and I want to know how it happened and what started it to, you know, find out what's gonna happen. I have a theory about kind of what started things on Harriet's end of things, but Wynn, I can't really read Wynn. He's very cryptic. But anyway, hopefully I can finish this tonight or tomorrow, and so I will give you guys an update then. Hey friends, it's been a few days. I am sitting outside soaking up some sun and some vitamin D while I have the opportunity, because I need it. I finished Happy Place the other day. I just don't think this book was for me. I had a lot of things that didn't work for me more than there were things that worked for me, if that makes sense. So let's go over the things that I did like about it. It was really smooth and easy to consume. I read this in 2 days and probably could have read it in 1 day if I had started it sooner the first day. Very easy to read. I loved how Harry felt about Wynn. I've seen some reviews saying that she's just horny for him, and like, yeah, a little bit, but I felt like it was much more than just, you know, having the hots for her ex. I thought that she really truly loved him and like grew up as a person with him, and so when things fell apart or when things weren't working, it just kind of paralyzed her. I loved the love that they had for each other. I'm glad with the ending result. I'm not necessarily glad how they got there, but like, I'll take it as a win. I'll take it as a win. Loved the setting, loved the vibes, you know, very summery, you know, up in coastal Maine, light, fruity, bubbly, very nostalgic, but in the end I just didn't love how the story was told. To me it felt like a reverse romance, or like an anti-romance. I don't like that this was marketed as a romance, because even though it was focused on their relationship, it was like more focused on their separation as a couple than it was on them like together as a couple. Like 90% of it was about them splitting apart, or like her reliving their memories of coming together, but like in the context of knowing that they were separated. To me, that's not a romance. That's like an anti-romance. That's a reverse romance. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, by the way, I forgot. I cut my hair. Cut a lot of it off. Yeah, I'm very happy with it. It was a lot to cut off, but I was so ready. So ready for it. I've been thinking about cutting my hair for a while. Probably not this short. But then I'm in grad school and things have been crazy, and I've just gotten to the point where I'm sick of worrying about how long it's gonna take to wash and take care of my hair. And like, you know what? It's gonna grow back, you know? So I just said, heck with it. My mom cut the back of it, and then I cut the front to match it and did some like shaping, a little baby face frame, and some layering, not layering, but like texturizing, I guess. Anyway, not the point, but yeah, I forgot to announce that. But yeah, it's fun, it's light, and takes way less time than before. So anyway, that is just kind of my thoughts about this book. I also this really bugged me, and I think because of this sort of stylistic choice that Emily Henry went with, it really took me out of it, and that was the fact that it's told in first person present, right? But the flashbacks, you know, the dual timeline was also told in first person present, and that really bothered me, because I'd be reading it and then I'd be like, wait, is this now? And then I'd have to like go back and check the beginning of the chapter and see if it was like now or like the past, and that just really threw me out of it. So anyway, beautiful writing. I just love the way Emily Henry captures those feelings and like puts them in a way that I would never think to combine those words in my brain for that feeling or emotion or whatever's going on, but I know exactly what she means, and she's so talented, and I love that. But this book was a miss for me. I feel bad, but it is what it is, and I'm here to talk about my honest opinions about these books in the nicest way I possibly can. I keep forgetting to update you on this book, so let's finally talk about Bear With Me Now. I started it a little while ago, but I've been getting so many Libby holds in, like Libby holds that I've been waiting on for months and months finally come in, so I'm trying to get through those, and I just keep not picking this up again. I am, however, currently on page 140. It's been an interesting time. I will say the first few, you want to come up here? Good girl. Yeah. I will say the first few chapters were a time. Neither Darcy nor Tegan made the best decisions, and Darcy just says things that I don't really think people say. Her reactions were interesting. She wasn't my favorite the first few chapters. However, she's grown on me a little bit. Like, I tolerate her now, I guess. So far, this book is just fine. It's not bad. It's not amazing. It's just a time. I'm also finding myself not really reaching for it very often. Like I said, I've been reaching for a lot of other books more, because if you're new to my channel, I read a lot of books at the same time. So yeah, those first few chapters were kind of, and then things got a little better. I guess the two of them, Darcy and Tegan, have kind of started to get into more of the romantic side of things. Of course, naturally, Darcy saved Tegan from a bear attack, which happens like in the first chapter or two, and is, you know, on the back of the book. He's inclined to like her, and then of course he thinks she's kind of amazing because it sounds like he hasn't been treated well in relationships, and she kind of likes him too because he's actually nice when she's inclined to date assholes. So I guess they're just kind of naturally gravitating towards each other. However, she still thinks that he's an alcoholic because he went to rehab for alcohol per his sister's request. He keeps trying to tell her that, hey, I'm not an alcoholic, and she's like, yeah, right, okay, denial, great. She just doesn't believe him, and you know, I get that because of where he is. But that also makes me think, like, why would his sister, who wants him to get better, right, from his panic attacks and anxiety, send him to alcoholic rehab? Doesn't make the most sense to me. It's fine. It's like watching, you know, a cheesy little rom-com or something. It is a beautiful day out. We have been enjoying the weather and the sunshine. This one has not been getting out as much lately. I don't know if you can see, she's getting kind of old. She's like going on 11 years old. So she's not up and moving as much. So when she wanted to actually like go outside, I was like, okay, yeah, let's go outside. So we went on a walk and we did some reading in the sun, right, Mimi? Right, baby? I call her Nuggie because she's a little nugget. She's my little nugget. But then, you know, of course I shorten that to Nuggie. Her name is actually Zori. Say hi to the camera, Zori. Say hi. So I finally had lunch so I can finally concentrate on reading. So I think I'm going to do a little bit of a reading sprint and see how far we can get into this. Unless something crazy happens, you probably won't hear from me until I finish it. So turn this off, okay? Okay. Hello, my friends. I finished this book, so let's talk about it. I think the last time I talked to you about this book, I was sitting in this spot, actually. So it's actually been a few days since I finished this book. I just needed to think about what to say. The reason I'm having a hard time is because there are some good parts of this book. Like, the writing style, I think, has a lot of potential. I think Katie Shepherd has a lot of potential as an author if she continues to improve on her craft. But some of the things that were happening in this book and that were actually said and thought in this book really irked me and just brought my enjoyment level down a lot. I ended up skimming probably the last third of the book just so I could get through it and finish it because I thought some of the in-between was a little unnecessary. There's a lot of internal thought processes in this book. The good. I did end up liking Darcy a lot more by the end. She did have some redeemable qualities. We got to learn a little bit more about her, but I wish she wasn't such a like hard ass at the beginning of the book because that's how she came off to me. She was a little brash and harsh at the beginning of the book. Tegan did not really redeem himself. Like, I get he's supposed to be like this cute little marshmallow of a man throughout the whole book who's struggling, but I didn't really see much growth from him at all, and his like problem that made him have more stress throughout the book, which the point of the book was for him to have less stress, just it was a hard no for me. And then the solution to Tegan's problem, I was just like, bro, just do it. And he did in the end, but I was just like, why did we wait this whole book for that? You know what I mean? We could have done that sooner and seen this book go on a completely different path, but that's okay, that's okay. I do have a lot of things to say about this book that might be considered spoilers, so if you do not want the spoilers, here is the timestamp so you can skip forward and skip the spoilers. However, the next few things I have to say might be worth you listening to and deciding if you want to read this book or not. I think if I had heard some of these things, I might not have consumed this book. So definitely up to you to choose. Here's the timestamp for you. Here are the parts that I could not get over. There were some things said that I just couldn't forgive, and I want to read some of them so that you can decide if this is something you want to consume or not. Our main character Tegan has struggles with panic attack disorder and like severe anxiety. He goes to rehab for alcoholism because his sister really wants them to go to rehab together. So he pretends to have alcoholism. Yeah. Okay, so here are some thoughts. He wished he really was an alcoholic instead of someone with a psychiatric disorder, because then he wouldn't be lying to Darcy and he could just stop drinking and go on with his life. First off, you lying is your choice, bro. Second off, what the fuck? I mean, I guess the grass is always greener on the other side, but like, bro, you don't just wish you had alcoholism. That was instance number 1. Instance number 2. Everyone had anxiety. Everyone was stressed. This was New York. He wasn't special. But that was the whole point of this ridiculous charade, wasn't it? Recovering alcoholics got welcomed back to their jobs and their friendships. Since when? Nobody called you a hero when you got discharged from inpatient psychiatric treatment. No one calls you a hero when you recover from alcoholism either. People are probably more worried about you than wanting to call you a hero. What the heck, dude? Okay, that was instance number 2. Tegan's having a panic attack and Darcy's trying to help him and figure out what's going on because she doesn't know that he has panic attacks because she thinks he's an alcoholic, right? So she said, "Did you take something?" He shook his head and nearly laughed. He wished he'd taken something, like he wished he was an alcoholic instead of a psychiatric patient. Because if he took things that made him feel like this, then maybe he might be able to stop. I guess I kind of get what she was trying to do with it, but it just didn't sit well with me. So you can decide whether this book is worth you purchasing or borrowing or spending the time to read. Woo. So that was the 3rd book of the books I've been avoiding. Glad we're done with that. The 4th and final book of the books I've been avoiding is The Spanish Love Deception by Elena Armas. I did start this again. Last time I got to page 26, and the reason I stopped is because there was this really infuriating scene where all the men are like, "I'm a man, you're a woman, you should do this job because you're a woman, and you can't do this job because you're a woman." I just got so mad. And so I put this book down and never picked it up again. I'm happy to say I was wrong. And I'm now on page 131 and I'm having a good time. It reminds me a little bit of The Hating Game. Our main female character, Catalina, or Lena as she prefers to be called, is a little bit of a mess. Or like when she gets talking and gets like nervous, she says things she knows she shouldn't say, but her brain doesn't get the cue, or her mouth doesn't get the cue that her brain's trying to tell her, and she just spews stuff. And so that's kind of fun and funny. And then Aaron's just one of those stoic men that obviously does not know how to express himself. But we gradually start to learn his micro expressions and what they mean, and that they don't always mean that he's angry and upset. So we're just getting to a point where they made the agreement about the wedding, about him being her +1 to the wedding, and in return she is his +1 to this event. So we're at the event right now. It's very detailed, I feel like. I feel like we really get an insight into Lena's mind and her thought process of why she is doing everything. So it's a little bit of a different reading experience, because I feel like lately I've been reading shorter books, and because I've been reading shorter books, a lot of it is kind of written in a way that lets the readers make an informed decision about what the character is doing, or kind of just make a guess themselves, or like it leaves it up to the reader a lot when it comes to like descriptions and the thought process because it is shorter. Whereas this one is very detailed and descriptive about where she is, what she's doing, why she's doing that. So it's a different reading experience for sure. This is a good experience and it looks like the story is gonna be fun. So I'm glad that I'm finally picking this up again, and I'm glad to be reading this after this book because I need something else. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. I finally finished The Spanish Love Deception. I'm so glad I finally gave this a second chance. Not that it was bad, it was just that one scene in like the second chapter of the book made me so mad just for women. Like the female rage was so intense. And it just left a bad taste in my mouth. I probably shouldn't have put it down and then slept on it. I probably should have just put it down, taken a breather, and then read another chapter, because it immediately, like literally immediately calmed down after that scene and got better in terms of like treatment of her. But I didn't. I set it down for like a year, and I'm so glad that I finally picked it up because of this video. I really enjoyed it. It's a very solid like 4-star or 4.25 star. It was very fun getting to know Catalina. You like really get to know her by the end of the story. It's very stream of conscious. You get to know every thought of everything she says and does, and like before each process. So it was a little longer than I personally needed it to be. Like I could have taken some of that out and still been really pleased and had such a great time. But we definitely really got to know Lena a lot, and it was just really fun. They go to an event together before Spain, and that was really fun, and then they go to Spain, and all of those events are really fun, and what happens at the end makes sense for what happens at the end. It was a good time. I'm really glad that I finally read it. I'm really excited to read The American Roommate Experience or Experiment, because I hear it's even better than this, and like so many people love and adore this. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really glad that I finally gave it a chance. So let's talk about the ratings and all of the other books. The first book I read in this video was As Old as Time by Liz Braswell. I think I'm gonna give this like a 2.5 star. The next book I read was Happy Place by Emily Henry. For the writing style, like the writing itself was probably a 4-star personally for me, because I didn't love the first person present writing even in the past. Like I didn't mind it for the present, but in the past that really threw me off. So I would give the writing like a 4, but the rest of it I would give like a 3. So I'm gonna land with a solid 3.5 star for my personal rating. I know everyone is different. Everyone has a different experience and relates to the story in a different way. I still had a good time reading it, even though it wasn't my favorite. It was a little too painful for me. I'm so dramatic, but still had a really good time with this. Then I read Bear With Me Now by Katie Shepherd. My reasoning for putting this off came true. I give this a 2-star because there were still some parts of the writing that I enjoyed. Like Katie Shepherd has talent when it comes to writing and describing things and, you know, getting the reader to be in that moment. But some of the things that her main characters thought and said, I was not okay with, and it was just all over the place for me. So 2 stars. Then we have The Spanish Love Deception for the win, like coming in strong at the end, saving this video for me. I give this a 4-star or 4.2 star, 4.25 star. I don't know where the 4.2 came in, but anyway, good time. So here is my ranking. Spanish Love Deception coming in for the win, Happy Place a solid 2nd, As Old as Time coming in 3rd, and Bear With Me Now coming in last. I would say my reasoning for putting off these 3 were pretty accurate and correct. This one I'm glad I gave a go, as well as this one, but these 2... Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. It was really fun to film and read and capture my reactions to these books. And I hope you had a good time. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you made it this far, consider subscribing and joining the fam. I hope you're doing well whenever and wherever you're watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye everyone.